Hey guys, welcome back. It is the day before Valentine's Day, I think. Let me check here. Yeah, Monday the 13th of February, and we are just working a little bit on Hyatt's 38 case RC. I'm going to go through some things, show you what we've done so far. Didn't get a whole lot of it on camera because, number one, installing a 4-cylinder on a Magneto, made it 90 seconds into the video before I screwed up. Installing a 4-cylinder Magneto on a tractor, or 4-cylinder tractor. Rudy already did an in-depth video on doing that, so I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But essentially on the case RC, what we've got to do is, number one is turn the Magneto so the rotor is pointing at the number 1 terminal, okay? It really doesn't matter on a Magneto which terminal you choose to be number 1, but if you want to go per the manual or per the numbers that are on the back of the cap to keep it from confusing yourself, just turn it to where the rotor, as seen through the back of the Magneto cap here, or the distributor cap, is pointing to the number 1 terminal. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2, turn the engine to where number 1 piston, which is always closest to the radiator, is on top dead center of the compression stroke. Now on a case RC, the flywheel is marked. Inside this little inspection port, there's a line across the flywheel, and then it's lettered with DC1. Meaning dead center 1. So once you've got that done, you can bolt the mag on, line the coupler up, and you will be in time Magneto to tractor. You do not have to do anything internally with the Magneto. All you have to do is turn the Magneto itself so that the rotor terminal lines up with the terminal on the distributor cap, and then ensure that cylinder 1 is on top dead center of the compression stroke. Now, if you were to do this blind and you just bolted the Magneto on the tractor, figured out which cylinder was going to fire next, meaning which one is coming up to top dead center of the compression stroke, all you would need to do is look where the rotor is pointing and connect that wire to that cylinder. It's that simple. People get kind of bent up on getting the marked number 1 terminal on the distributor cap lined up with or wired to the number 1 cylinder, which is fine, but you don't have to do it that way. All you have to do is make sure that the spark coming out of the Magneto is going to whatever cylinder is going to fire next. That's all you have to do. But we did it by the book on this one, so I turned the Magneto to the number 1 terminal. That one's going to fire next. Wired it to number 1 piston, that's on top dead center of compression stroke. Should be ready to go. Verified it by turning the engine over, got spark going to the right cylinder at the right time. So Magneto's done. Carburetor we already rebuilt before. I do have a used crank handle coming for this, and then we also were missing the left side footrest. So we've got that coming. What else did we do? We went through, let me grab my flashlight here. Went through and ran a new oil line, so hopefully that doesn't leak anymore. Ran a new fuel line, so hopefully that doesn't leak. And I believe, did we put a new sediment bowl on this? I don't remember. I think we did. I think we did put a new sediment bowl on this. So we did that. Carburetor is rebuilt. Oh, we had to make a new, I'll call it a yoke, if you will, for the carburetor to governor to throttle linkage itself. It's like a three-way tie with this piece here, and the old one was broken. The interior tab was broken. I'll show you guys. So this tab here, you can see, is missing. And this one was originally cast. So what we did was we made one out of brass. And it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. We've got, how did we do this? I cut a chunk off of a piece of a brass ingot, and I drilled it for the hole that runs with the throttle rod. Then I drilled it crossways for the hole that has the pin connecting the governor linkage to the carburetor linkage. I wanted to do it that way so that when we milled out this center portion, that we weren't bending those brass tabs on either side. So the holes were drilled, and then actually what I did was I took a cutoff wheel and I slotted the center portion, if you guys can see that, this portion here, I slotted that. Actually, I take that back. We drilled 2 holes on either side, then I slotted it, and the middle part was able to just break out of there, and then we just took the mill and milled that last bit on the top side of this here. So didn't get any of that on camera, but it really wasn't much milling work, so it took, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes. So worked out pretty good. I got to get a couple washers for this pin, but other than that, it should be good to go. So what I do have to do yet is I stopped at the local hardware store today to, let's see, problem. I'm going to have to reform that fuel line. Great. So I didn't take into account the air cleaner pipe that needs to come down through this area, and the fuel line is in the way. So I'm going to have to reform that. Shouldn't be a big deal. I'll just have to come, instead of coming up like this, I'll probably have to come around this side here and then up. So not the end of the world, because the air cleaner pipe has to come from here down through here and then over to the carburetor. But one of the problems I'm having is this is a later model universal replacement carburetor. The earlier carburetor should have had a larger opening, if you can see that. This is way too big. So my first thought was to cut this off and weld a reducer onto it so that it matched up. But I think what we're going to end up doing, well, we may have to cut it off anyways, because my plan was to use a PVC reducer, which I've got, but unfortunately I got the wrong size. So I'll show you guys here. It's just a rubber reducer. Let's see, I already put it back in the truck because it needs to be returned, but it looks just like this. So it's 1.5 inches on one end, 2 inch on the other end. But I think the way that they measure PVC pipe is, correct me if I'm wrong, but they must measure it by OD and not ID, or vice versa. ID instead of OD. So this is too big. So we're gonna have to figure that out. I don't know, I may end up going with my original plan, cutting it off, welding a reducer on there from, you know, just something small from an exhaust shop, and putting a straight rubber hose on there instead of something that is a rubber reducer. But that's where we're at. So we're really close to firing this thing up for the first time. I want to get that air cleaner buttoned up. Gonna have to reform that fuel line. Dang it, I didn't even think of that air cleaner tube, so not a big deal. It'll literally take me a couple seconds to reform that fuel line. So let's get that fuel line off and we'll do that quick, and that'll probably be it for this video because I have to figure out how I want to get that air cleaner tube hooked up. But let me get that fuel line off. All right, rerouted the fuel line. Not a big deal. All I had to do was do a little extra bending, and it fits just fine. So this is what the air cleaner tube should look like. Going up to the air cleaner from the carburetor. And I don't even know if this is the original tube. It might be, but this thing it doesn't sit in here right. It doesn't line up properly. So if I line the top one up, you can see the bottom one is at quite a slant, and the entire pipe itself is not square. Not that not that they made anything square as far as air cleaner pipes go, but it just doesn't seem right. So we might end up doing some modifications to this air cleaner pipe, but that's where we're at. So fuel line's done, oil pressure line is done, magneto's done, carburetor's done, broken clevis for the linkages for the governor and carburetor and throttle rod is done. Cleaned out the tank, flushed it, got all the debris out of there. And yeah, I think aside from getting that air cleaner pipe on and putting some fuel and coolant in it, I think we're ready to try it. I'm a little leery on this I guess I'll call it a mount stud that I made for this lower coolant or water jacket elbow. I hope it seals and holds up, but I'm just not, it's a very crappy design, I'll say, the way they did this, but hopefully it all works. It should. It's not a pressurized system, so we should be fine, but yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. I don't really have anything else to say other than I've been really busy. I'm working between probably 60 and 80 hours a week, so I've just been really busy. I haven't been over to Rudy's in almost 3 weeks, so yeah, just trying to plug away on this. I have to get this thing running before the end of March because in this garage there's going to be a birthday party for a 4-year-old. My daughter will be 4 next month, so that's going to have to take place in here because the piñata has to be hung from the ceiling. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for, well, we didn't really do any wrenching, but that's just an update on Hyatt's tractor here. Once again, the link for timing a 4-cylinder Magneto to a 4-cylinder tractor on Rudy's channel is going to be in the description below, so make sure you guys go check that out if you have any questions. And hopefully the next video we'll just mount that air cleaner pipe and then try to get this thing fired up. So we'll see what we can do. Talk to you guys later. One last thing, I forgot. I had to make a Magneto shutoff rod for the Magneto itself, and I'll show you guys that real quick. It looks like it's all squiggly and bendy. Well, that's because it has to be, because of all the angles we have to match to get it from, I'll show you, to get it from You guys see this little arm swinging here? Got to get it from that arm around the back side of the magneto here. If you can see my fingers in here, we got to get it around the back side of the magneto to this position here. So I'll show you. I don't know if I can, let's see if I can mount you guys up there without getting my hands in the way too much. So this rod has to go back here, up into that linkage, and then into the back of the magneto itself. And then you guys should be able to see it working here. That was missing, so I made it just by trial and error. And it has to, so coming out of the back of the points cover, it has to come out at a 90, go up, and then we have to cant backwards to clear the distributor cap here. It has to cant backwards a little ways and then come back up straight and then come out towards the outside of the magneto and then come forward to go into the bracket at the top. So it's really kind of a tricky piece to make, but we got it done and it looks pretty good. So that's the last piece. So luckily I had some 1/4-inch round stock laying around. So yeah, that's going to do it for the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.